Ladies and gentlemen, you wanted it, you got it. The place for the untold, real, raw, and juicy stories of dirt track racing. It's Dirt Track Confessions. And now here's your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dirt Track Confessions. I'm your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney. On this week's episode, we have the Vice President. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. You know, I forgot to ask your title, Jeff.
Yeah.
Shame on me, but at least that was correct. So the Vice President of Behrent's Performance Warehouse joining us, Jeff Berhent. How are you? What's going on up there?
I'm doing well. We're busy here at the end of the year, just trying to get ready for the holidays and try to start a new year.
So, a random thought that just popped in my head is there a certain busy season for you guys, or is it kind of like all year?
Yeah, the busiest is March and April for sure during build season. It's when it's all hands on deck, very limited vacation time for anybody and stuff like that. Yeah. Definitely the busiest.
So let's paint a picture for our listeners, Jeff. What did life look like for you growing up?
Well, it was traveling the races with my father as a real youngster. Doing that. My father worked in the city and started the business here at, the location we're at now from his house. So my brother would come here and work after school, and so would I. And he would come in, by the time he got home from work, it was probably 4 or 5 o'clock at night. And then he'd work all night and we would do the kid stuff, back and forth between school and stuff like that. And that was the younger years of life. Graduated college, sort of became involved here. And, at that time we had, my father was working here at Charlie Castle and a few other people. And, the business started growing from there.
So that has me wondering so your dad started this, yes?
Correct.
So what inspired him to want to build like this warehouse?
So it was an interesting thing. He had a tire business prior to all this.
Okay.
Decided to sell the business, and his accountant told him he had X amount of dollars that he was going to pay taxes on if he didn't start doing something. That something was driving a race car. Well, back then in this area, parts were hard to get for race cars. You had Tobias's and stuff like that. So he started, if he went down there and he needed one, he got two. Mm-hmm. And it just word of mouth got to, be the, hey, Harry Behrent probably has some extra stuff at his garage and you can go over there and get it. And that's sort of how it snowballed from him at his house to, doing parts part of it. He always built his own race cars. So that was just natural for him to be involved in building chassis and stuff like that.
I feel like you guys are kind of like the one-stop shop. Pretty close to one-stop shop.
We try to be. We don't do any manufacturing here at the location. We do some manufacturing offsite, but we don't do any car repairs or chassis building here at Behrent's.
Okay. So how long has Behrent's been around?
1975 it started.
1975. Amazing. Yeah. So since 1975,
how do you feel? It was 73. 75 is when he started racing. I got that wrong.
I get it. Okay, so 73. So how do you, obviously you've been around for it all. How do you feel the business has evolved over the years? And maybe what challenges have, your dad, have you guys faced with the industry? Because obviously it's always growing. It's always changing.
Yeah, I like it. It's weird because, when I first got involved, there was no computers. So the first, when we did, computers became of age. So now what went from a hand tracking system that my father had on notebooks and stuff like that for inventory control became a computerized system. So evolution there became a little easier, as far as keeping track of inventory, pricing, and parts a lot more accurate. The business continued to grow and, to the internet more. To all this, wholesaling and stuff that we do now and stuff with, throughout the country and stuff like that. So it's a more, it's grown a lot, I guess you would say. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
From writing it on paper to you can go on the online catalog. There's a printout catalog. You guys have a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to keep track of.
I think there's still some of the notebooks around from my father when he kept track of inventory by hand. They're quite interesting pieces to have. Yeah.
You can frame them and hang them on the wall.
No, exactly.
You really should.
Yeah.
So that also has me wondering, customers' needs. Obviously, the racing industry is forever changing, but have you felt that customers' needs have changed at all? Like,
well, it has, customers have evolved. There's still, a big mass of the old style people. So older racers tended to build more themselves. And like, so you would sell more raw metal and stuff or pre-bent pieces that they would weld together. Today, it's more like cookie cutter race cars where you're just buying parts and slapping them on the car. Some of that's disappeared, but some of it comes back in the technology side. You do have younger people understanding things and stuff with this shocks and springs. And, so sometimes you could work with an 18-year-old guy quicker than you can an older guy on that kind of stuff because it makes more sense to them, what they're used to in their world of video games and stuff like that, So it is kind of neat, but yeah, so it's evolved to more buying parts and putting them on the car than it was fabricating your own and stuff like that, as it was when I grew up, when my father was doing it and your father and all those. Yep.
Cookie cutter. I always say cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Right.
So, how do you find balance? You've got a great, thriving, successful business, but like, how do you find a way to still stay connected, with the racing scene?
Well, I do that with my own racing. The nice thing about it is I enjoy working on race cars. So if we're not working, I'm working on race cars with my son. A couple of Gary Sloat helps me and stuff. So we're all in the shop usually working. That's always been really fun for us. And then obviously going to the track, the benefit I have is I talk to a lot of people in our former racing and outside of our former racing. So ideas are always coming in and out, and I share with them too, sometimes some different ideas on how to do things. And eventually you find things that cross over sometimes that really help. So
I like that. So I'm glad you mentioned. So Jeff has some cars that like you guys do amazing at. Do you feel having your own race car really, like, what popped in my head is like competing against your customers? Do you ever feel like it helps or hurts you, or maybe like a little bit of both? I don't know.
Yeah, well, so with the race cars, I'm fortunate that my father has put me in that position, right, to have the race cars, because truly without him, we wouldn't be able to do it. Mm-hmm. But it is sometimes a conflict, sometimes it's not. And it really comes down to the person you're dealing with. A lot of people enjoy us doing it because they get the technology out of it that we have that helps them. There are the few people that think, we shouldn't be racing, TO shouldn't be racing, everybody shouldn't be racing. But if we took all the people that were involved in the sport out of racing, we probably wouldn't have enough people to compete at the racetrack anymore. So, unfortunately, racing is a passion of love for the sport. So everybody that's doing it, from selling the parts to promoting to doing it, does it because they love the sport. So, you're going to have the inner mix of all that going on.
Totally agree. So that had me like just thinking is, all right, you have your own warehouse, you're competing against, your customers, but at the same time, you kind of just touched on it, Jeff, is you're able to find improvements or things that need to be tweaked or whatever have you. Like, could you give an example of maybe something that you've come across that you're like, okay, we need to work on this?
Well, right now, the biggest thing is shocks and springs and technology on what to do with things and stuff like that. So a lot of our friends in the late model world have been doing, what we're doing now for a little bit longer under some different, ideas and principles that they use. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the best area that I get, to change things anymore. There are some parts that we massage, move a bolt here, move a bolt there, like change locations and stuff like that. But for the most part, we're all trying it. It's just a matter of, trying to make a driver happy. You could do all you want, but when you're working with a certain driver, you have to make that driver happy more than with what you're trying to do. So, and there's a lot of the drivers out there, believe me, they're all different.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Jeff, I've got 3, 4, almost 4, and they all drive different. You say this, and this one's like, that didn't work.
Right. Yeah.
So, what I was going to say is, late models. You're talking about late models. I feel like late models are like light years ahead of us.
Maybe. In some cases they are, in some cases they're not.
No?
So some of the things they're allowed to do via their rules allow them to be ahead of us. But some of the stuff they do is stuff that we did long time ago. So yes and no. Like, so rules wise, they're allowed different technology and stuff like that compared to us. So yeah,
That's
really not that much different.
The technology part, definitely. Yeah. So would you encourage, you kind of did just touch on that, but would you encourage other business owners, in the industry to follow a similar path? Like the perks, what would you say the perks of having your car with your, like, alongside your business per se?
The perks. Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I'd recommend it to everybody. It definitely makes them better as far as trying to help their customer base, right? Mm-hmm. Like the number one thing I'm out there doing it. I know I have a great idea of what to help people and customers with. If you're not doing it and you're just selling parts or something like that, it makes it very difficult to recommend stuff. You might be relying on other people to give you your information as far as what you're handing out. Rebuilding rear ends and transmissions and all that stuff. It just, over time, you develop ways to do them better and stuff like that, that when you're doing one or two, you might not see the advantages of and stuff like that. So I don't know, I guess just being on the road and seeing all that going on and, helping customers with tire prep, like tire prep is probably one of the biggest things we all do with race cars, and having a firsthand experience between myself and my son trying to help people do that is so much. And without being able to show them it really wouldn't, I don't know. It just puts you at an advantage, I guess, with the business,
Yeah, hands down. I mean, I just had it at the tip of my tongue. I had an example of, it's like, okay, going to the gym. I'm not going to ask advice to someone that's never been to the gym before.
Like me. Right? Yeah, you're not going to ask me.
Okay, I wasn't pointing you out, Jeff.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying this episode, want even more, or want a closer connection to the DTU fam? Join us over in Club DTU, where you'll receive early access to all of our podcasts, live race day updates, exclusive content, special merchandise, discounts, a community chat, personal recognition, and so much more. All inside one place, Club DTU.
But that makes such a good point.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
You're hands-on in it, whereas, like, I'm not throwing, like, other people on the bus, but other warehouses, distributors, like, they're not even going to the races.
Right.
And it's like, that doesn't give me the good vibe that you really care.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot that goes along with that, right? Like, sometimes, you divide how you help your customers the best you can. Yeah. And your loyal customers always get the most out of you. And that's just in life, right? Your best friends get the most out of you. It's just how it works, because your loyal customers you spend more time with, and it just by nature it happens. And, unfortunately, those are the ones you're probably talking to the most too. So they get the most help,
True.
So.
Very, very true. So do you feel, again, having, your car racing, do you feel like any added pressure? Like, does your performance on the track, do you feel it ever reflects your business? Like, I've honestly, Jeff, that I've never thought, like, wow, they sucked today, Behrent's is terrible. Like, but has it ever crossed your mind?
There's two people I have to impress. My father is one and myself is the other. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably harder on myself. My father, we do it for him. So everything we do, so it's really, him that we're trying to do the best we can for. And I'm not a good loser. Yeah. So, I've been known to win races and still not be happy. Like it's just, it's how I guess I was made up when I was born or something. But yeah, you can't race for other people. You race for yourself. And then you have to keep it in perspective, because in racing, we all know winning is not the easiest thing in the world. If you're running top 5 and it gets to the point where if you're running top 5, 6, or 7 and you're struggling, that's okay, because you got somewhere to go. But when you're running second or third and think you're struggling, that makes life very difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So the answer would be yes.
Yes.
Definitely is. But I would say that's like, you're putting the personal pressure on yourself, which I can totally relate to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And most guys are like that, yeah.
Do you feel that there are, like, looking at 2025, are there any new developments or, like, trends that you might be seeing that we can talk about, of course, that you feel
not really
are good for the year?
Yeah, like, you mean like in cars or something like that, or just
Yeah.
There's always stuff going on. The world living inside the shocks and springs right now is where it's all out, and geometry and stuff like that. And there is room to be made there. It's just who lives there the longest and figures it out. So it really just comes time. And, this off season, you'll see who comes out in the spring running better and not. And guys just figuring things out as they critique to your driver. Because, I'll harp on that all the time. And, I talk to a lot of people. I hate when people ask me, well, what does Matt Williamson like or what? Because, just by watching them have raced over the years, they don't drive like Matt Williamson. And you're going the wrong direction right off the bat. You know what I mean? And so there is more to be found in cars. And we're all slowly making fine-tuning adjustments to make our cars better.
So that has me wondering is, I feel like I might know the answer, but we'll let you say it, is, Jeff, what keeps you motivated and passionate about racing after all these years? Obviously, it's a family business,
sure,
but there's a lot of lows and a lot of highs too. But what keeps you waking up every morning and be like, okay, I want to do this?
To me, it's just the thrill of going to the racetrack still. I've had it since I was young. When I went to the racetrack, the car is competing. Obviously, your car running up front helps a lot. In the last couple of years, my son started driving, so I'm doing as much racing with him as Matt, if not more anymore. So that's really, really something new for me. It's crew chiefing from the father side versus crew chiefing from just, to Matt is way different of a feeling at the racetrack than, it's a lot harder to do it for your son than it is, for, a show up paid driver kind of thing,
I am curious, how does that go?
He's young yet, so he hasn't gotten to the point where he's telling me what's going on. But as soon as he does, that's where it all starts. You see with a lot of father-son teams and stuff like that, it's a difficult thing. My goal is for him to take it over and to be able to be the father. So hopefully that happens, because when that happens, I think it's more, you're watching your son race. Now he's responsible for everything and stuff, and maybe some advice minus that, but then it gets a little easier.
You let me know how that works out.
Yeah, I don't think it does, but it sounds good.
Yeah, you just keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
So as far as Behrent goes, the warehouse itself, what does a normal week look like for you? I mean, I think you guys maintain your car there, right? My
car's here at the store. Yeah. So a normal week, as far as Behrent's is, we start on Monday morning early. I'm a get to work early kind of guy, usually not a late bird at work. I'm known for that, as the people that come here early in the morning to meet me know about. And it's really a lot of phone sales and shipping parts out all day long. Race cars, every once in a while we'll touch on them during the day, but generally that's a nighttime evening thing where, we'll do it just when we have time at night or something like that and turn cars around. Fortunately for me, my travel team doesn't race weekly, so there's generally more time in between races to get cars turned around and back racing. My son does all the tire prep, so he handles all that. So fortunately, I don't have to do any of that anymore. So that's, as we know in today's world, that's a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably too much time, but it is what it is. But, that's it. We're 6 days a week. We're here Saturdays and, off to the races a lot in between. That's a lot of road miles. It's a lot of looking at bugs on the windshield.
Are there certain races that you aren't competing in? Are there certain events that you're like, okay, we need to be at, or maybe you're promoting at or getting in front of exposure wise? Yeah.
I mean, outside the Northeast Modifieds, which I think I go to most every race they have, in the late model world, we have a salesman that travels, that's Chuck Schmick. So we do a lot of the late model races, whether it be World of Outlaws or Lucas or Hunt the Front series. We're doing a lot of those. Obviously that's a growing part of our business. And so, that, staying out in front of that stuff is probably real important for us. But we, generally either I'm racing or the Buzz Chew cars are racing when we're going to a race somewhere. So I don't make any specific plans to go to certain races. I'm usually at a race already, so it makes it difficult to add on. The one I miss the most is probably the Sixer down at Grandview, because it seems like we're always racing against that somewhere. And I was fortunate to go watch it a few times, which I just enjoy going to watch. It's a crazy the way they do it and the racing down there. And it was just always really, really fun to go watch.
Dude,
So
that kills me all the time.
yeah,
Always. So
yeah.
do you guys, like, I'm kind of curious, is as a warehouse, when you go to the races, do you bring like spare parts with you? Like in case
Yeah.
a customer needs them?
Well, yeah. So my trailer's loaded up with parts all over, and all the good customers know that they just come over, and it's all night long text messages. Usually, when I'm going to the racetrack, I'm delivering orders like crazy. But there's a lot of spares in our trailer just for that, to make sure everybody has what they need for the night.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You're kind of like I don't want to say the candy man. That sounds a little weird, but
Yeah,
it sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're there when we're needed. It's like
Yeah.
there's an issue, you call Jeff.
Right. Yeah. And we enjoy that part, it just helps everybody keep going. Right. So it's a lot of fun that way.
It is. So where do you, I mean, this is a loaded question, but where do you personally see like the future of dirt track racing? Like, are we heading in a good direction in like 5-10 years? I know that's far out, but like, what do you feel? What do you see? Because you're hands-on with a lot of stuff.
Well, it's hard to predict. A lot of it comes down to the economy and the way things are functioning. Yeah. There's definitely a change going on. Like, talk about this with a lot of people. Is the biggest thing that blows my mind is nothing is open after 9 o'clock at night anymore. I don't care where you go. 24-hour diners are gone. Malls are closed. Pizza places are closed.
Truck stops.
Yeah, truck stops
are now closing.
On the New York State Thruway, you can't get a cup of coffee after 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. It's like we just redid all these, rest areas, but you can't get a cup of coffee. Yeah, it's like who's in charge? So the demographics of the world is changing, right? So if racing adapts and figures out what these hours are changing or why, I think we'll all be all right. I have this crazy idea that I've told some people about racing in the morning. I don't know. Like, is that what we need to do? Most drivers wouldn't be able to make it. I get it because they're all in bed and stuff. But would tracks be better? Like less sun load? It's a crazy idea. But I think one day you're going to see somebody try it. Asphalt racers start practice at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Why can't we race? So I don't know. But racing is strong. Like the car counts at all the specials tend to be better than weekly racing anymore. So that's a demographics change. Like people aren't going to support the racer, like, their local tracks weekly, it seems like. Yeah. So if these tracks can figure out how to survive on specials and bigger shows, maybe that'll be what the sport needs to keep going. But, we're selling a lot of parts. The other parts of the country are doing well too. So there's a lot going on there that maybe the Northeast needs to adjust to just to, ensure that it stays alive.
Interesting. So do you have like people out west that you can like compare apples to apples to? Be like, so how's business going out there?
Yeah, like, a lot of my competitors, like, so the racing business, when you say competitors, is so small that you do business with your competitors, whether it's racing, whether it's parts business, wholesaling, you're selling back and forth and stuff. So you tend to become a lot friendly. And, the middle of the country sometimes matches what we're doing in South and stuff, but sometimes there's different areas that are doing better, like, whether it's weather delayed or, there's, I think 2 years ago, the Midwest rained every weekend for the whole year. Like they never even got a race season in, so naturally sales are going to be down in that area for all those people because nobody's running. But yeah, there's a lot of networking that goes on.
That's so true. I never thought about that, as the weather totally impacts you too, doesn't
it? Yeah. Weather's huge.
You should be a farmer, Jeff.
Well, there's plenty of them right outside the window here.
So what do you feel? It could be race teams, fans, promoters, anything have you. What do you feel people should be doing to ensure like the continued growth of the sport, other than like, racing at, I don't know, 9 a.m. or something? Well,
yeah, supporting the racetracks is huge, right? Like, so just getting people out to the racetrack, trying to bring a friend once in a while, that was a push a few years ago, and it seemed to work because bringing young kids and stuff, if we can entrap, some young kid to involve into racing and stuff like that's nice, right? And maybe they'll enjoy it, maybe they won't. That's the biggest thing, is just bringing your friends once in a while to the racetrack, and hopefully they have a good time and they want to go back.
Dude, I'm always saying that. I'm like, always bring a friend. Always bring a friend. I should get back to doing that too.
Yeah.
Point. I think I did that maybe once or twice this year.
Oh yeah.
We need to do that more. I think, Jeff, I think the problem is do we have the time to make new friends outside of racing to bring them in?
That's a problem. Yeah, that's a big problem.
You let me know when you figure out how to do that, and then we'll go do that.
Right.
So I always like to close out my podcast with, some kind of like good piece of advice, inspiration, whatever really speaks to you with my question, Jeff. So my question for you is, what is the biggest lesson racing and running your business has taught you about life?
The probably biggest thing is making time for family and for some of the important things. I'm probably not the best at it, but I know I've lost in that area, and that's probably the biggest thing, is trying to make sure that you do find time for that and keep that balance between racing and cars and work and stuff like that. So if there's a couple things I would do over, I would do some of that over, but that's probably the biggest thing I've learned, in balancing the sport.
Well, luckily enough, it seems like our families are pretty involved in the sport.
Yes.
Like your son's involved, so at least that works out. But there are some families out there that some don't like the racing, so you really need to make the effort for that.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you for coming on. This was awesome. Now, for anyone who, I don't know how they would not know you, but for anyone that does, for some reason, not know Behrent's, where can they find you online, social media? How can they get a hold of you guys?
Right. So you can reach us on the web at behrents.com. It's behrents.com, or, by the phone, it's 845-651-7389. Anytime, reach out to us. If you need help or questions, we're always here.
Amazing. Well, thank you. This was awesome. And I look forward to seeing whatever 2025 has in store for you guys. So, Jeff, thank you.
Thanks, Mandee.
Everyone else, thank you for listening in. We will catch you right back here next week.